method.
It
Hi,
was
everyone.
beautiful.
Hi, everyone. It's Mxiety. This is the show where we talk about everything and anything because everything and anything relates to mental health. On tonight's episode, we are talking about our personal experiences with mental health related issues. My guest is Ashley, aka Ashley, and introduce yourself. Do the thing where you talk about like how amazing you are, and then if you can't, then I will continue talking about how amazing I think you are.
Well, I'm Ashley, aka.Ashley. I'm a Twitch streamer who absolutely adores Mxiety.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, y'all know why. But yeah, and I like talking about mental health. So here we are.
Here we are. You reached out to me like, a bunch of months ago and you're like, hey, I'm starting a Discord to talk to people and help them with their mental health. Oh my God. And you drink tea, girl. So you were like to help people with mental health. I like Mxiety too. Thank you. Thank you for my community for liking me. I'm happy you don't hate watch. So you reached out to me and you're like, hey, I do mental health stuff. And I was like, whoa, that's really awesome. And so we kind of started talking and I was like, one day I'll have you on the show. And that day was 6 months later or something.
That's 2020, right?
Yeah, it was. That's just all of 2020.
Yeah, that's all of my 2020 at least. Every day runs into the next.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, fam, if you have any questions, type !join and then your question, and you can add questions to the queue for Ashley and I to talk about if you're curious about stuff. But otherwise, we're just gonna get it started. You have a very green room, but your room is very green because you game. You play the bitchy games. Yes, tell us about how you push the buttons. No, but in seriousness, tell us about like what do you game and what do you do while you game? Because it seems like you talk about mental health.
I play like mostly anything. But my main game that I do on stream is World of Warships, which is like a naval battle simulator based in World War. One of them. All right, now I'm stupid. Okay, moving on.
You're like, I know all about this game. It's in a war.
No,
and there's ships.
you lob shells at the enemy until they go boom. It's cool.
Perfect. What else could you want?
Exactly. But yeah, I've got all the green because that way it just cuts me out. So it's just me. And then my dog walks through, so that's why the floor is green.
Oh my gosh.
So you can just walk through across the water or whatever. They like him more than me, so I had to like keep him out of the room for a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. I understand because I also have a dog and the community really likes the dog. So the problem with the dog is not that he is loved. It's the fact that he doesn't like being on camera. Literally, he will be dead asleep. And as soon as he hears me turn on the camera for stream, he's out of the room.
He's like, nope.
Yeah, he's like, I don't need to be here. Thank you. And yeah, so he's lovely, but he's sassy. But sometimes he'll come in and you're like, oh, is everything okay? And it's usually because dad's playing video games and not paying attention to him downstairs.
Oh.
Yeah. So you keep you keep him out too.
Well, yeah, honestly, I had to because we're having some behavioral issues where he's like resource guarding my space. So in honesty, in seriousness, we had to separate him, which has made the stream very sad. It makes me sad too, but we just gotta give him that like confidence of being like in his own space and not feeling like he has to like be in mine and protect mine. And
he protect.
Yeah,
he protect. It's okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get into mental health like chatter? How did you become interested in mental health? Because otherwise you just do Warship Go Boom. So
Warship Go Boom. Yeah. Well, for me, it's just part of my life, and it's something that I've, I want to say always, but ever since I discovered the wonders of therapy, something that I've been very passionate about. And I've always been very open about my journey, and I talk a lot. I'm a talkative streamer.
Why would you ever?
Yeah, I don't focus enough on the games, so I'm a bit of a noob at most games
Same
because
though.
I'm just always chatting, with chat and about whatever, as long as it's not politics, we got to keep that out of it. But yeah, we talk about mental health and, sometimes I talk about how I'm doing or, what I'm struggling with or things that I've um, found recently that I found very interesting or that helped me or whatever, whatever it is. So,
Just all the things, all the things. So
hmm
you also fundraise for mental health orgs just like I do.
yeah.
Do you have like a like what inspired you to start doing that?
Well, I'm trying to remember. So the very first time I did a charity uh, fundraising campaign on stream, it was just like a friend that was a part of a group that invited me to join their Game Blast campaign, which is for special effects in the UK. Which helped gamers with disabilities,
Mhm.
like it helps create equipment that helps them game, right? So if they need special controllers or whatnot.
Mhm.
And I discovered that I absolutely loved it. It was a blast. It was my community, loved it. I never would have expected to raise as much money as I did. And it was really cool to see like my community get really involved and of course when I started thinking about like what charities I wanted to raise money for, and I've done several. Um, but a couple things that I kept in mind was, what am I passionate about? What passions can I share with my community? What are they passionate about? And most importantly for me is always to do my research on the charity and make sure that the money is going to the appropriate places
Yeah,
or
you'd be
at least in a way that
surprised.
makes, me
Yeah.
comfortable. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you want to be able to tell your community, here's what you're paying for. You're not just throwing money out into the wind and you're not paying for somebody's salary and you're not yeah, people don't want to be like, "Cool, I just spent $10 so y'all could have office space." Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And I
needed.
don't
It's
mind.
needed to run an organization. I don't, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, but some of it just goes overboard. Even some that are not lowly rated. I always make sure and look at what they're paying. If they're paying people, what they're paying people, and where that money's coming from. Because I don't obviously like people got to get paid.
Mhm.
People do really good work and need to
Yeah.
get paid. But
Yeah.
there's some there's actually a job a job opening that I with the charity that I was looking into, but I did some research on them and they had like 12 people making six figures plus, and most of them were
Oh.
related. And I was like,
Oh.
hmm, like
Mm-mm.
nope.
No. No.
I'll
Yeah.
do the research. So even though they had like a good score on like Charity Navigator and stuff like that, there was like that made me go, whoa.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to work for them, and I would never give them money.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't ask my community to. That's the scarier part because your community is asking you for your utmost trust and saying,
Mhm.
"We trust that you did the research so that when we give somebody money, it's not going to, somebody's like
Yeah.
private jet." Yeah.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
also had a private jet. So yes, exactly.
A little nepotism at that charity. Yeah, a little bit godless donut, just a teensy bit. Yeah. No
It was
CEO need.
actually
Yeah, go
a
ahead, sorry.
blast
Yeah.
researching it because they had like ties to Marilyn Manson
Oh my
and
god. Oh my
like occultism and stuff. So it was like a pet charity too. So it was like the most interesting like
Oh my
research I had in my
god.
life. So
What a wow. That
yeah.
escalated quick or
Yeah,
de-escalated quickly.
it was really interesting. But yeah, so always do your research.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I found. So NAMI is the first mental health charity. I've raised for St. Jude a couple times, and I did for NAMI, and I've done for RAD, and yeah, I'm always looking for good charities for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so in terms of so you see a therapist. Do you recommend other people see a therapist or like
Of
what's the big
course.
deal? Yeah,
Yeah, so I am not actively seeing a therapist right now.
that's fine.
I use for me I use a therapist like when I feel like I need to, which is
No,
we'll come back
that's
to that.
no, no,
We'll come
no,
back to that.
no, no. We
No,
can't
no,
come
no.
back to, but that's
Yeah.
totally normal. That's
Right,
fine.
right, right.
Yeah.
But we'll come back because there's a
Okay.
caveat to that. So
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
come back
Okay.
to that.
Let's back up.
But yeah, yeah. For me, growing up, I wasn't raised in a family that like believed in therapy, like
Most of us aren't. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
And actually I remember I was probably in junior high, maybe middle school. I remember reaching out even to my pastor and like I call him, like I went out of my way to like get my pastor's number and call him and like tell him like something's not right,
Hmm.
like like basically I explained like how like morbidly depressed and like suicidal ideation to him, and the answer I got was like basically like, oh yeah, we all go through that. And
No, you don't. No.
that was it.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That
that
drives
was
me
it.
wild.
And like never follow up or anything. And my mom wanted to know like what I talked to him about, but I was like so ashamed, and I just pushed it to the back of my mind, and I just never thought that, like, probably because of that, because of the way I was raised, I just got this idea in my mind that the way I was just the way I was made, and that nothing could change that. I was a
Mm.
worrier. I was always
Hmm.
stressed out about everything, and that
Hmm.
just got me down, and that gave me major anxiety. And my first husband uh, really encouraged me to seek a professional help, which you know it was done in such a loving way, right? Because I
Good.
was going through a bad time at that time, but it was done in such a loving way, and he would just like bring it up and then drop it, and so there was no pressure, and there was no judgment in it, and finally I was like, I'll try. I guess I'll try it. Like nothing else is working, and I can't continue to live like this, and it literally changed my life.
Yeah.
Um, so I would encourage anybody to seek out therapy. You when you have physical ailments, it's not a shame to go see a medical doctor.
Right.
You're not expected to have the knowledge to overcome things
Yeah.
on your own.
Can't you just
Uh,
unbreak your foot? Just fix it. Just stop having a broken foot. Done.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so like I had to like get out of that mindset, like that it meant that I wasn't strong. That's not what it means. Like needing a professional to help guide you isn't about lacking in yourself. It's about they're a professional. That's what they're there for. And yeah, so life changing for me. And like I said, I go back when I'm feeling like maybe for me it's usually I don't cope well with major things, right?
Sure. Sure. It's tough.
Um, and so when I get to that point, that I'm like, oh, I gotta go. I need help processing, right?
Right.
So I know that about myself, and I make that leap. Now, with the caveat, the 2020 was a rule.
2020 was, I don't think anybody came out of that alive, like fully, you know? A little
Yeah,
part of you died, a little part of you
right.
inside. Yeah.
Every day, a little more and more.
Just
Yeah,
chipped
and
away.
I found myself in this point where making the effort to make a therapy appointment became just one more thing on my plate.
Oh, well, yeah. And then you become like, yeah. Well, because there's
And there's
always
just there's
something else that you'd
stuff on
rather
my
be
plate that I was just
doing.
like,
Yeah. Yeah, and therapy takes a while, meaning like that's an hour out of your day. Like I got other ish to do other than talking to somebody about my feelings. I don't have time to talk about my feelings.
exactly.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. And I really lucked out because one day I just happened to be on Twitter, and DJ Wheat like posted about healthy gamer coaching being
Oh.
sponsored by Twitch.
Yeah.
And I filled out the thing and I got an answer like that day. And so I'm in that.
That's
which
awesome.
is not just so you guys
Not
know, it's
therapy. It's
not
not therapy. It's
therapy.
not there.
Yeah,
I'm also in
it's
it,
not
by the
therapy.
way. I'm
You
also in
what?
it. Yeah, I'm also in it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not therapy, but like literally first episode, like I sobbed like a baby the whole time. And if you don't know what healthy gamer is, like literally all they do is reflect back at you and ask you questions.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just, I mean, at least that's been my experience.
Yeah,
But
it's informational, it's reflective interviewing is what they do.
mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's just about helping you get like work through things
Yep.
by just getting like asking questions that you could be asking yourself.
But you don't know, but you can't. That's, like that
Yeah,
kind of logic is
exactly.
what gets us into the hole in the
It's
first
true.
place, is that like if I knew what to ask myself to not feel this way, I wouldn't be feeling
Yeah,
this
it's
way.
so true.
I'd
That's
be
so true.
I'd be up and down, I'd be fine. I'd be like, "Wow, I solved this problem.
Yeah.
It's not a
Well,
problem anymore."
they ask a question, I'm like, oh, well, that is a
Oh,
question.
touche. Yeah. I actually yesterday was talking to my coach, and I'll disclose. I was talking about Twitter. I was like, for some reason Twitter's just been stressing me out. And it's nothing like I haven't been canceled, nobody's attacking me, nobody's coming at me and saying that I'm stupid. Like nothing's happening, but it's just every time I open it I'm like and he asked this brilliant question back to me, and he's like, why is it wrong that Twitter is that way considering how stressful Twitter is? Like, why wouldn't you? He asked it really well. He worded it really well, but it was basically like, why wouldn't Twitter be stressful? And I was like, I don't have an answer. Twitter's stress. It just is. It
Good
is.
question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Mm.
It is stressful. But then that like took this like load off of my shoulders, because it's very often that you're like, "Oh, I'm broken, and that's why I think this way." And you kind of mentioned that, like, this is just the way I am. And
Right.
I feel like parents label us, right? Like the messy kid, the nervous kid, the dramatic kid. And yeah, and that
Yeah,
continues.
it's about finding that. And it's funny because uh all therapy is different. There's like different styles of therapy, but what the ones that I've always been to were focused on cognitive behavioral therapy, which is so built for me. Like
Oh,
it's just
good. Good,
like
good.
perfect for me. The way that I'm built is perfect. So if you guys aren't familiar with it, cognitive behavioral therapy is therapy that's goal is to teach you to change the way your mind works, which is the
Mhm.
thing I thought was impossible.
Mhm.
'Cause I thought my mind is built this way. I'm a worrier. I'll always be a worrier. But it's not true. You don't have to be. It's about faking it till you make it. um, but basically, like, it's like having my own like mind outside of myself in Healthy
Ooh,
Gamer,
I
where
like
they're
that.
asking, yeah, they like know these questions to ask me that I haven't been thinking to ask myself, to work through. And that's what cognitive behavioral therapy, and I always come back to it, which is why I don't feel the need to go to therapy like year round, because I try to practice those coping mechanisms and skills of like working through the feeling. Why do I feel this way? Is this a rational feeling? Like, is it
Mhm.
helpful?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like what could I do that would make me feel better, or what would maybe be a better response? And like, thinking through that, I just like broke down and couldn't do that in 2020. 2020 was so overwhelming for me, which nothing happened to me personally.
That's the same. What is it? I think it's just like the weight of just the world, just
So
everything,
much.
just like it felt heavy. Everything felt heavy.
It's true. And we're not alone. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I keep reading all these numbers about the percentage of adults, the increase in people who are reporting depression and
Mhm.
suicidal ideation this year is way up.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel very lucky because, my husband's in the military, so we didn't have to worry about like I'm losing a job, my job, I do
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Um, didn't have like we didn't have those like what I felt like are like super important things that would be like a real reason to be depressed. And I think
Oh,
that's
there
part of
you
the other
go.
reason why
Yeah.
it was hard for me
Yeah.
to call my therapist.
Right.
That's something we talked about, with my coach, is that every time I've gone before, it was like a big reason, it
Mhm.
was like, of course I, need professional help. But this time I just was like, I don't even know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I feel
That's
stressed
so
and down all the
interesting.
time.
But, like, that you have to justify it, right? To yourself. You
Exactly.
have to be like, "I have to be in X amount of pain." But I guess
Exactly.
I mean, do you
And
do
I
that
know
with
better.
yeah, you first of all, you know
And
better when
I
it's
know
emotional.
better.
You do. But, like, do you do that with other doctors? Because I know I do. A great example, I just had surgery and they found out that I've been, like, growing some weird thing in my sinus for 6 years. That means for 6 years, I was just like, "What's this headache?" It's fine. Like, do you know what I mean? So I don't I totally get it when people are like, "Nah, it's not
Yeah.
bad enough for me to see a therapist," or "I don't need to take care of this thing. I can just keep putting it off." Like,
Mhm.
whatever's bothering me, whatever I'm thinking, I can just keep putting it off. And,
Right.
like, you don't have to. It could just be so much better if you fix it sooner.
Yeah. Instead of living with it. It's like preventative care, at the doctors costs way less than the care you get in the long term without having preventative care.
Yeah.
You think about mental health that way,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, preventative care is crucial. That's why most insurances cover preventative care. I mean, not mental health care, that's a separate problem. But they do cover like preventative care, like, going to your OBGYN once a year and going to your regular doctor and getting blood tests. Like all that's usually covered by typical insurance because they know that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Is that I think that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't heard it, but I like it.
I dub him son called Fliffle. That's funny. I'm sorry. You keep mentioning coach. Can you elaborate? Asked Martizel. Yeah, so they're mental health coaches. They're not therapists. They're mental health coaches. And I don't know. Like we can go separately into coach versus therapist and how we feel about that and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, so what they did was they started an initiative for streamers who are partnered, and they only started with partnered streamers because to scale it, it's really hard to scale it, right? If they said like affiliates, they get everybody. So they kind of decided to start with partners, this pilot program of like you get free 8 sessions of mental health coaching to start, and go from there. And so yeah, you like applied and you said, "Hey, I could use a coach," and then you're either in or you're out. And I think it also depended on like how serious your issue. Like if you say I'm going through burnout, yeah, a coach can
Mm.
probably help you walk you through that. If you're saying I have suicidal ideation, a good coach should look at that and be like, yeah, no, this is therapist territory. I can't help you. Um,
Yeah, and they don't diagnose or anything. They
yeah,
just
yeah,
reflect.
yeah, yeah. But it's really funny because during the first session, there was a point where I was like, he asked me a question. I was like, I'm going to talk about that with my therapist. And he was like, oh, thank God. He's like, because normally I have to talk people into like going to talk to their therapist, you know? And I'm like, yeah, so I'll just go do it. So I see a coach
Mhm.
and see a therapist. So right now I'm basically getting like mental health assistance twice a week. So I definitely
Nice.
can't judge or tell anybody that they shouldn't in any shape or form because I'm getting a lot of help right now.
Help is good.
Yeah. How do you feel about coaching? I don't know. What's your takeaway so far?
I mean, same. Like I said, for me, it was like that first appointment was like 90% of the way back to being normal me. Like that's how impactful it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Um, but it's because I don't know. Well, actually, I think I do know why I do this because we discussed it in coaching. But I have my entire life had the habit of letting things build and not
Yes.
dealing with it.
Yep.
My coach calls it his metaphor is it's your emotional trash can, and you just keep shoving
Ooh, I
trash
like that.
into it,
Mhm.
yeah, until it's overflowing,
Mhm.
and gets knocked over or whatever. And so yeah, I just like build and build and build. I don't deal with things, and that makes everything that happens to me, no matter how trivial, suddenly feel like the end of the world. And that's kind of where I had been,
Yeah.
and then I just shut down. I literally had shut down. I would just like, when I wasn't streaming or sleeping, I was just like mindlessly staring at the TV, not even watching it. Like I couldn't
Oh
tell
God.
you
I
like
feel
what
this.
I'd watched, you know, or at my phone on Twitter, just mindlessly scrolling. I call it doom scrolling, where you're just not even really reading it and you keep
No,
refreshing.
yeah. I don't think that's the official definition for doom scrolling for like whatever, but that is
Is
you're
there?
just
Okay.
scrolling until you're
Odd.
like, yeah, you're just scrolling until you're like, I don't feel better doing this. And then you
Mhm.
go and do something else. Yeah, well that was that tweet I made the other day about how I'm like, I don't feel like reading a book. And then I sit and mindlessly scroll through Twitter, which is reading, but it would have been so much better for my mental health, for just my like humanity, like my growing as a person, if I sat down and read a book instead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
Yeah.
it. And I had like all these like I have so many things to do list, so many things. But I just couldn't. Like I just had too much. There was just too much. I just couldn't get myself to do any of it because I was just like I would think about doing something and then I was like, what about all these other things you need to do? And then I would just scroll instead, because I
Yeah.
was doing nothing.
Oh my
But
God,
yeah,
this is
so for
hitting
me
close.
that first session, like just crying over all the stuff and then feeling better, I just felt way better because I finally like talked. I like said everything out loud, which helped me like emote it. And then I was able to gain what's the word? Like perspective on all the different situations instead of feeling like all of it was this mountain. I could suddenly see that it was just a bunch of little potholes and hills.
Right. So the problem is that it was how much was trash was in the garbage can that you hadn't dealt with, right? Like that's it's how many things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then it
Yeah, it's
all
just
feels
overflowing.
big instead of dealing with it one at a time, and then it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
totally not doing that right now, so it's fine. It's fine. This is fine.
It sounds like you are
Yeah,
too.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, I definitely was like in 2020, I was like, I'm gonna deal with this in 2021. And then 2021 came around and I was like, I don't want to deal with this, but I kind of have to, I guess. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And that's where it is. You just got to get to that point where you just decide to start taking care of stuff. But sometimes you get to the point where you just can't convince yourself to. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't convince yourself to,
Yeah. Yeah.
how can you convince yourself to? Yeah. So for me, that's where either a therapist or, like I said, like the healthy gamer coach was just able to like ask the right questions to get me to talk. Um, in fact, I'm pretty sure I have some friends that could have honestly done the same thing. They're just trained to be, I mean, they're very intuitive on those questions, I gotta say. Very intuitive. It has actually challenged me to want to be better at asking questions of people, for sure.
That's a really good point too. It makes you reflect on that more. So what do you feel like, honestly, so you say like you were always a worrier. So what did you do with that worrying instead? What happened? What changed?
Well, used to, I didn't think worry was something you could just let go.
Yeah. You're just like, I have to be nervous about this.
I would just the thing would cycle in
Okay.
my mind. And I would have like the physical manifestations from it, like you know. And I would get anxiety because I was just like thinking like in a cycle about it, or whatever it was. Big things, little things. I was just a big worrier. And yeah, now I can like have that moment where I sit down and I think about if it's worth worrying about, and it's 99% of the time not. Maybe 1% of the time it is good to keep it in your mind and like for whatever reason, but 99% of the time it doesn't help. It's not helpful. And that was part of that cognitive behavioral therapy is like, is this helpful? Um, and it's usually not when you worry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, Iron Wolf is asking a great question. What tips do you have to start working on that overwhelming stack?
Uh, For me, it was about getting those overwhelming stacks consolidated was my first thing. Because I just had like written to-do list, to-do list on my phone, to-do list in my mind. And so just getting for me, it was getting it all put together in one place and then starting I like to start to mark off the little things that take no time. So that's what I've started doing. So I've kind of put some things at the top that I know are important that need to be done. But for the other things, I'm like, "Wait, this will literally take a minute to do." And I've just been letting like 100 of those pile up. So I've just been slowly marking all those off my list. And it's felt really good. The check mark. I love check marks.
I like crossing
So
stuff out. Just
yeah,
yeah.
just
Yeah. So like anything, you have to like break it down into smaller bits. You have to
mhm,
make it smaller. And by making it smaller, you make it manageable. But
mhm.
it's scary. I think also it's important to acknowledge that it's scary. Like, oh my God, this is a lot I'm about to dive into.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was also about like forgiving myself, I guess, for not having been as productive in 2020, you know? Because I think that was part of the overwhelming part of it too, is like I wasn't getting anything done and I felt so guilty about it,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
just couldn't get myself to like
To do stuff.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
it would just make me feel more guilty.
Right.
And it was just a vicious cycle. So just like accepting that 2020 was hard for me for whatever reason, and that's okay. Yeah, moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, I completely 110% agree with that. It was, what was it, fam? I don't know, people in chat, like, what was it about 2020, especially towards the end? Like in the beginning, I was very much like feisty and like, we're going to fight this thing, we're going to make this work, and we're going to push up against it for me. And then the closer to the end, it just like wore me down. It was like, no,
Mm.
I don't want to do anything. I can't do anything. I just want to stop doing stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. So do you find, what would you recommend to somebody else who's kind of was where you were?
I mean, if you can't snap yourself out of it, you got to seek the help with it. Is my opinion. You know, if you can, and there's a lot of good resources out there. I think the one of other than stigma, obviously the biggest barrier to mental health care is
Cost.
financial.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But there's a lot of great services out there that either help pay for therapy or help you find a therapist that charges on a pay scale,
Hmm.
which is like they look at your finances and say like, okay, they can afford this, and that's what they charge you. So yeah, don't let finances discourage you. Definitely, 100% don't let like stigma like. I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's because I've just decided in my mind, but it seems like the world is just okay with the idea of mental health care now. Like there's still some like,
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not the only one who's been feeling that.
yeah, and that's what I'm like. Is it because of I surrounded myself with that, or is it just
I wonder the same thing, and I don't have an answer because I have surrounded myself with that. But at the same time, I feel like everybody now on Twitter is talking about their mental health. Oh, I had a bad day. Oh, I'm having a decent day. It's okay not to be okay. I feel like that's everywhere. And it's
mm,
pretty prominent figures on Twitch who are saying these things, which is super important because those are the people that most people are listening to. The most people, not that they don't listen to people who don't have a following, but if you have a big following, the more people are going to hear you. Um,
yeah? I love and I always try to encourage people that are open with their journey publicly, because it's important. It's important that we all know that we're not alone. It's very common,
yeah,
and yeah, and it's okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
for sure.
It will soon as their lives resume, it's lip service. Well, I don't know. I mean, talking about how you're feeling, you might not in after all of this crap is done, you might not be feeling the same way. So you might talk about it less. People who have quarantine anxiety might not be the same people who have regular anxiety, and that's okay. As long as they don't actively do crap, that's like against like stigmatic and makes mental health worse. Uh, then I think they're fine. But I also posted a link to on my site. I've compiled resources for affordable care. So for care, like how to find care that is affordable. So please check out that link. But yeah, the Twitch bubble is generally positive, open, and supportive. So that's what most of my Twitter feed is. It depends on the day. That's what I'm gonna. It's the same people because I've thought about it recently. Right when I got anxious, I was like, oh, should I curate my feed better? And I was looking through people, and I was like, no, I think people are just having a shit time right now because these are people I normally follow for the same positive input. They just don't have the positive input right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Do you So do you find so you kind of mentioned this, but you find it still difficult for you to reach out and get help, and now you go and get help, like you talk to a therapist sporadically.
Yeah. Yeah. Originally, I just didn't think therapy was worth anything. It was just the way I was raised. And that first one obviously was a big hit. And now I know, like, when something big happens, I 100% know I can go get help for this. Obviously, with 2020, where I felt like nothing's happened to me, I just feel this way,
Right, right,
then it
right.
became oh, I guess I should find a therapist, but I'm not going to because it's another thing on that list that I'm just not doing. um, so yeah, and I think like I said, even just that one appointment, like I feel like I'm in such a good spot. Not to say like from from my perspective at least, like depression's like alcoholism, like it's something I'm always gonna deal with. It's something that if I'm not careful at my, depression, anxiety, my unhealthy coping mechanisms like to slither on back in.
Right.
Um, but I feel, I get in places where I'm just like doing really good and I'm practicing those healthy coping mechanisms and I'm more cognizant of my own mental health and taking care of it, which I think is it becoming easier as it becomes more um publicly talked about, I guess, more front of mind.
Yeah.
It's easy to just forget and not think about, you know you think about your physical health because you see your body every day.
Right.
It's super easy to think about, like, oh, I should go for a jog, or whatever. But or like, oh man, I can't pick up, I can't carry all the groceries in one trip. I should probably start, working out my arms. But, for the mental, you don't have that like visible or like physical reminder to take care of yourself. It's easy to fall into a place and then not even realize you're there until it's real deep,
Yeah.
at least for me.
Yeah. How do you recognize that you're in a space where you're like it's really deep? Like, do you have physical symptoms, or do you have anything that happens that you're like, "Ooh, okay, this is too much."
Mm, I mean, I for this past year I started having like full on panic attacks, which I hadn't had since my first, for like 10 years, like since I went to therapy the first time. Like full on physical manifestation of like my feelings, where I'd like just like if you haven't had one, like for me, it's usually like, like cold chills and like can't talk and my heart is racing and uh, my mind is doing this and it doesn't even necessarily have to be about anything. It just happens. And um yeah, when that started happening, I was like, oh, I think we're there. And then like I said, for me, like that realization that I just could not get myself to do things,
Yeah.
just doom scrolling for no reason. Um But yeah, I mean, there's always something different. It usually has to do with that trash can. I'll just
Mhm.
start like, I don't know, always realize it's happening, but I'll start having like emotional reactions to things that like don't fit the level of the thing. Overblown.
Okay. When you're like, that shouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Yeah, why am I crying, over spilt milk? Or, but like I'm literally just like in a puddle, like, oh, okay. Yeah. This is not about that.
This about the bigger the whole trash can. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards. What do you do to get yourself feeling better? So if you talk to a therapist, like what are your coping skills that you go to, especially throughout 2020?
Um for me it's about like I said, just kind of stopping and going through the thought process of uh what do I feel? Why do I feel that way? What caused it? What could I do to make myself feel better? Um, is this like an inappropriate level of feeling for, what happened? Just
Right.
kind of like tumbling it around and exploring it from different angles and rationalizing the emotion, which is not easy. And
Mhm.
it took a lot of practice because your emotions want to tell you that they're exactly right for what's happening.
Right.
um Not to say not that like you should never invalidate your emotions. Like that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel. Doesn't mean you can't help yourself work through that feeling and like feel something different though. So yeah, that's usually what I do. And then trying to recognize and weed out maybe some of the bad coping mechanisms. Um, so for me, like mindlessly scrolling through
Mhm. Mhm.
social media, especially before bed,
Yeah.
I had to get rid of that.
Take that right out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I had to like give myself a curfew, a social media curfew this year.
No, that's what I do. And I had I have the same thing. So apps now let you set like a timer
Oh,
for
really?
yeah. Well, I have a Samsung and it lets you have a timer for how long you can be on an app throughout the whole day. And
Hmm.
I learned that I would just find new ways to get on. So that that's not working for me. Like I would just be like, okay, I'll just go on my computer now. You know what I mean? Like or I would be like, "Oh, I'll just extend the timer." Like I just basically created a mild inconvenience for myself.
Hmm.
So that didn't necessarily work. So I have to figure out a new way to get myself like away from social media. And the thing is it's a weird thing cuz I feel like it's a double-edged sword because I feel like I get a lot of positive interaction from social media. Especially in 2020, I feel less isolated, I feel less alone,
Oh, right.
I feel heard, I feel like I can have discussions and like all these things that I'm getting out of social media. But then at the same time, like it's time that I could be spent doing something else, but I'm scared to miss something. And those are all like negative things that you don't want to keep enforcing. So it's yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think you hit the nail on the head. There, in years before, it was a lot easier to say, just spend less time on the screen.
Yeah.
But when you're socially isolating, that is your social
Yeah.
time. So I can see that definitely making that harder. I've been trying to spend more time in voice calls with my
Mm.
friends
Okay. Okay. So
versus
that's
typing at
more
them.
connected. Okay.
And then I can do other things and I don't have to be staring, like
Yeah.
at that message. And sometimes I play games with them or sometimes we just sit in a Discord call together, which can be really nice for sure. No pressure. It's
Yeah.
like sitting in the living room together.
It's so close. It's not the same, but it's so close as
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes.
As
Yeah.
close as we can get. As close as we can get.
Yeah.
I read, oh my gosh, What I think it hold on. Was that on Cyberpunk? Okay, this is crazy. But
Okay,
I'm
go for
pretty
it.
sure it was a character in Cyberpunk said, it was in a video game recently. They said to me like, um, if you're not happy with the life, or if you're not getting the life that makes you happy, be happy with the life you have, or something like that.
Huh.
And I've like really been thinking about that and like how 2020 has been, and like if this is the normal now, like I just need to find ways to be happy, instead of like moaning over what I wish I could be doing. Like I really miss board game meetups, local board game
Yeah.
meetups, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what? I can play board games online. It's not the same, but
Right. But
I'm trying to like allow myself to be happy with that because that's like what we have right now. And it's not easy, but I'm
no.
trying.
No, it's not. It's sucky. Yeah. Okay, Cyber Squirrel has a great question of do you have any advice for when you don't understand what emotion you're experiencing?
Ooh, that's a good one. You know, I'm not very good with picking out the word for an emotion. Um, During healthy gamer coaching, my
Yeah.
coach sent me an emotion wheel recently. I highly
Oh,
suggest
neat.
looking one up. Yeah, because oh man, he said I don't want to sound like a dick, but um, bad is not an emotion. Because he had asked me how I felt about something. I was like
Yeah.
bad, and he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not an emotion.
This is not emotion.
Pick it, like what emotion are you feeling? And I had to be like, like I had to really think about it, and I was able to get there. Um, so I don't know, maybe try that and see.
Yeah, like legit name. Fine. No, there's a reason that like little sad face 5 scale, right? Of the like happy face, okay face, meh face, neutral face, and then like gets really sad and then gets really angry. But yeah, emotion wheels charts and stuff. I an exercise that my therapist taught me that I found worked brilliantly for me is spend a day when you have a feeling or an emotion, writing it down. And after a while you recognize that like just take a notebook, take a piece of paper, literally just dedicated to here's all the feelings I've had today. So first of all, you'll recognize, holy shit, I have so many feelings like
Yeah.
throughout the day. They change all the time. But second of all, you realize that you can't keep describing things as stressful, frustrating, aggravating. Like you start getting really creative with like, okay, but what is this emotion that I'm actually feeling? Like, okay, I'm stressed, but I can't just keep feeling stressed. There's got to be another way to describe what I'm going through. Yeah. Blank or curious or amused. Yeah, and those wheels will do a really really good job. Remind me, fam, to pull one of them up. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, it was really eye-opening for me to be able to, because the way it's grouped, it's like, it would, I'm not sure if stress is on there. I'm sure it is, but like it's like a word, and then out one, it's like two other words under that word, and then
Right,
more
right, right.
words under those words. So it's kind of like pinpointing the feeling was really interesting.
What if you feel like you don't have feelings? That's called anhedonia. That's its own feeling. There's a thing for that. Anhedonia is the inability to feel emotion. So you're not alone in that either. Yeah, most of the time I feel, yeah, so doing better than I used to be. There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, and that's another really good point that Blissful Split is making. That sometimes if you don't feel like you have feelings, they could be showing up as physical traits and stuff too. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good
Yeah, it's
point.
very true.
Yeah. Learn the root cause, but I think I've tried. Yeah, it's if you try to like challenge yourself to describe how you're feeling without by not being redundant, and you find the difference. It's pretty fascinating. Yeah. Do bad feelings still come through though? Maywin, you know what? That's a brilliant correction because that is completely accurate. You do feel bad. You're totally right. Anhedonia is not the inability to not feel, but there is a word to describe not being able to feel things. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. I thought it was anhedonia, but you're right. As soon as you wrote that, I was like, Yeah, that's right. But yeah. Yeah. Mellow Husky, a lot of us are, feel trapped. Yeah. But that's feeling trapped is a feeling. Yeah.
Mm.
As sucky as it is, it is. Well, tell everybody, use the word numb. Numb is a feeling. You feel numb. Yeah. Yeah. Alexithymia is the inability to know what you're. Thank you, Bliffle. I knew there was a word, and I knew it still started with an A. I don't know what I would do without my mods. But yeah, so I Hate You and Dinosaur redeemed emotional cookie, and I challenge you to do one as well with me. So an emotional cookie is a cookie that you give yourself for doing something right. So for being kind to yourself in some way. So like if you did something good for yourself, you give yourself an emotional cookie, meaning it's like a metaphysical pat on the head that you don't have to actually do it, but you're like, that got me a cookie. And it goes into like reinforcing positive behavior. If you recognize you did something positive, you're more likely to do something positive again for yourself. So when people redeem emotional cookie, we ask that they tell us something that they did good for themselves today.
Are they telling us?
No,
or
I'm
we
asking
telling
you.
them?
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I should have been more clear.
Sorry.
I'm asking you to join me in telling me your emotional cookie.
What did I do good for myself today? Well, I'm here.
Aw.
I had a good time with Mxiety. Yeah.
Aw.
This has been a good talk. It's good. It's always nice to have the back and forth about mental health conversations instead of just be me talking at a screen.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, where you're just like, it's really, if you stop and think about what you do, it's not encouraging. It's like I just talk into this camera and hope somebody hears it on the other side. I'm just looking into a camera lens and hopefully somebody on the other side is like, "Oh, that works for me. That resonates." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's awesome. What did I do good for me today? Actually, I felt like crap and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change out of my pajamas, which I had been in until 2 p.m. Probably was not helping how I was feeling. I changed out of my pajamas. I put on makeup and I took a picture of myself. I was like, look, this is a cute picture. Good for me. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny how changing the outside can affect the way you feel inside.
It is. Right? When you like they say like if you're gonna go to an interview, dress like you're going for an interview, like all that stuff. It makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
Definitely.
Yeah. Generally and still feel deeply about some very well, no, that wouldn't be alexithymia. That would just be feeling limited emotions. Right? It's not one or the other. It's just a different thing. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. Oh, Hearth Holmes, thank you so much for subscribing. That is so sweet of you. Thank you kindly. Thank you. Please let me know if you'd like to be a pineapple or a ice cream. In the meantime, though, Ashley, where can everybody find you? Here are the links. I'm shouting you out from the rooftops. Thank you for the hydrate doing that. But yeah, so everybody can find you on Twitter and Twitch, and tell everybody maybe who missed in the beginning what you do.
I am a Twitch gaming, mostly streamer, who streams a variety of games, but mostly World of Warships. And I just talk about whatever the hell I feel like.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Do you have any parting words, any final like advice, anything maybe that you say on your channel to peeps or anything like that?
Just remember, like, it's never too late or too early to seek out professional help, for mental health. Highly encourage anybody and everybody to try it. Don't let anything stop you. There's always go to Mxiety's website.
Oh,
look at those resources.
Thank you. That's very sweet. You don't have to do that. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, we are gonna be our Beazle. Stick around for more Mxiety. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.